Program does not necessarily reflect the opinions and viewpoints of the staff and management of this station.
Welcome to the wonderful world of seniors, the best of all worlds. You now have the time, resources, and ability to enjoy what you have worked for all your life. So let's explore the many possibilities available to seniors on Senior World Radio. Senior World Radio is your source for senior citizens-related topics, information, and entertainment. Now, here is your host of Senior World Radio, Glenn Howard.
I'm so delighted today to have a lady by the name of Sallie Felton here in the studio with me. I've known Sallie for quite some time. In fact, the first time I saw her, we had just come back from overseas. My wife and I lived in Manila, Philippines for 7 years, went to Budapest, Hungary for 10 years, came back home, and of course, very interested in missions, and met a lady who I think knows a whole lot more about missions than I do. She had been involved in leading mission trips, but the way she got into it was really quite something I thought very unique, and truly an incredible senior. Sweet lady by the name of Sallie Felton, who is, 83 years old.
No, I'm sorry. When I turned 80, I started subtracting.
You started subtracting, so now we're back to...
In a few years, I'm going to be the same age as my children.
How about that? Sallie, I'm so glad you've come in the studio today to visit with us, because I've been anxious to talk to you, because I've been a real fan of yours. Let's start out very back at the beginning. You're a native Oklahoman?
I was born in Oklahoma City and started school here, and then we moved to Altus and later Wichita Falls, and I went to high school in Wichita Falls.
Married your husband where?
In Wichita Falls. He was at the air base there.
Okay, a military guy.
Yes.
How many kids you have?
I have 2 boys.
2 boys.
Yes.
Life was going good. Everything was great until I understand you were one of those unfortunate wives that got a surprise one day from a husband who decided he had other interests.
Yes, he said he didn't love me anymore, and that I wasn't an asset to his ministry.
Saying you at that time had been married how long?
41 years.
So after 41 years of marriage, your husband says, don't need you no more, I'm going to do it by myself.
Yes.
That's got to be devastating.
I think there's a better word than devastating, but it doesn't come to me right offhand.
What in the world then caused you? Had you had any work experience outside the home, or what had you done before that time?
Well, I was church secretary at Ridgecrest United Methodist Church.
Okay. I don't think church secretaries pay very much.
No.
So suddenly having to make a living with 2 boys, your boys at that time would have been how old?
Well, see, they were grown.
They were grown, okay.
Yeah, and they were away from home.
So then to find something to do, what developed your interest in missions?
Well, the Lord has a hand in things that you never see at first. We had an extra office space at the church where I worked. So our minister at that time invited the new leader of Volunteers in Mission to office in our building. And I said that I would volunteer to be his secretary in the time that I wasn't working for the church. And this was Larry Acton, who was the first director full-time of Volunteer in Missions in the Oklahoma Conference. So because of my affiliation with him, he took me on 2 mission trips, one to Mexico and one to Alaska. And then he gave me the opportunity to lead teams.
So where was the first team you led?
Glenn, I don't know. Yes, to Mexico. We went and, 15 or 20 of us went to build houses on the border. They were 12 by 16 rooms, and they had 2 windows and a door. And families would move in, and one lady told me she never thought she would have anything this nice.
It's amazing the kind of conditions that many people in third world countries do live in.
Yes.
What was it about missions, though, that really captured your heart? Because, first of all, how many mission trips have you led since those days?
Probably over 50, and I've been on more than 60.
You've led more than 50 mission trips and been on over 60 to various countries around the world.
Yes.
Wow. And you started at the ripe old age of what? How old were you when you started all this?
62.
62 years of age. You start leading mission trips or volunteers in missions with the Methodist Church. Wow, that is something. When you started going and started taking people, of course, Mexico, I guess, particularly Alaska, would not be such a challenge. It was pretty nice and everything was American. But when you started going out to other countries, do you remember the first time you went outside the North American area and started conducting missions trips?
Well, I went to Costa Rica several times. Mm-hmm. One that I remember especially was when we went to Chile.
Okay.
We were to go to La Serena. And, you make all your arrangements when you're here in the States. Mm-hmm. So they asked me at the office, do you want to take a bus from Santiago to La Serena, which is about 5 hours, or would you rather fly? Well, I said, of course I'd rather fly. I don't want 5 hours on a bus. So the arrangements were made. We flew into Santiago, did the work we planned to do there, and we're off to La Serena to work on a parsonage so that the pastor could live close to the church. Well, we got to the airport. Our friends saw us off. We went in, sat down, and they said, your plane has been canceled because of fog. Now, I speak Spanish, but it's kind of pidgin Spanish, okay. And I don't understand as well as I should. So the flight person there at the airport made arrangements for us to take a bus, and she sent us to the bus station in 3 taxis. Well, of course, since I was the leader, I needed to go in the first taxi. Well, the first taxi got lost, and the third taxi arrived first, and the second taxi second, and then sometime later, the first taxi arrived at the bus station. There were some 100 buses there. I went to the kiosks she told me to go to, and they didn't know anything about what I was talking about. We only knew one contact person in Santiago who spoke English and would be able to help us. I tried to call her and could not get her. As I was walking back through the bus station to meet her, to get with my group,
right,
I ran into her face to face. She got us a bus, and we arrived in La Serena late, but all together and wonderfully cared for by the Lord.
That's one of the things that's most amazing. I, of course, made a lot of the mission trips myself, and how many times you go into a strange country, several million people, you don't know anybody, and yet you see these divine appointments that just simply things come together and they work. You begin to realize that this is more than just an exercise, an activity. It is truly divinely inspired ministry. And it's so very satisfying to me, and I know is to you. You've traveled, I understand, somebody said literally around the world?
Well, I guess you could say that. I've been to Singapore for both directions, so I guess that means around the world.
Singapore's on the other side of the world, so if you get into it from both directions, I would say yes, you have been. What areas have you found the most emotionally moving as far as you're concerned?
Well, we went for a month to an orphanage in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
And those precious little children who are just like children everywhere, who want to serve the Lord. They want to be profitable. They want to learn so they can reach out and help others. We took some money and bought two bicycles for the orphanage. And they took their allowance money and bought shoes for the two of us that went.
So they were giving to you.
Yes.
Wow. When you go to a mission field, and particularly when you take people, and most of your tours are trips when you go, what do you have, 15, 20 people usually go with you?
Yes.
This is a life-changing experience not only for you but for them, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So many people that have gone with us have gone on to lead teams and take others. Some have become interested in the people they met, especially in Mexico, and have gone back many times and semi-adopted a child and helped see her through school.
So even though you've only led some 60 tours yourself, the people that have gone have continued to keep those contacts and ministries and keep things going and helping people on an individual basis.
Some of the people that we met in Mexico, Mabel Claire was one, and she had a ministry of collecting money to be able to send children to school. So you would pay so much a month and have a certain child, and that child would write you. One of the children wrote, "Thank you, and I hope you stay well. I think the intent was so that you can live long enough to see me through school."
I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio, visiting today with Sallie Felton. Sallie has been taking mission trips and leading groups literally around the world for the last 20, 30 years, some 60 of them. We got to take a break. We're coming right back, so please stay right here with me.
You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Have you ever had a problem, but it seemed like there was no one who could help? You spent hours calling around, being referred from one place to the next. Well, not anymore. I want to tell you about a free and easy-to-use service in Oklahoma. 211 is a simple 3-digit phone number to get help or to give help when you don't know where to turn. Dialing 211 only takes a minute, and you are connected with a caring Oklahoman who will help you find the assistance you've been looking for. With access to over 13,000 programs, Heartline 211 can connect you to local resources for many different needs, including health care, food, counseling, rent assistance, disability assistance, job services, and much more. 211 is a service of Heartline, a United Way partner agency. 211, the right first call to get help or give help 24 hours a day.
Hi, my name's Jason Ledlow, president of UT Phone, the ultimate telephone service. We're proud to be a sponsor of Senior World Radio with Glenn Howard. UT Phone is dedicated to providing Oklahomans affordable telephone service all across our great state. We have Lifeline home phone service starting at just $1.95. That's right, just $1.95, and most of Oklahoma's seniors qualify for this reduced home phone service. They get to keep their old home phone number, and it even includes long distance. Another great feature of UT Phone's customers really like is that it includes repair service. That's right, any repairs at no additional charge. With many telephone services charging $40 to $50 per month, it makes sense to switch your service to UT Phone. This service is a federal program that is provided through the Universal Service Fund. There is only one per household, so make it UT Phone's home phone service for $1.95. Give us a call at 800-996-0098. Again, call 800-996-0098.
I've made up my mind.
Welcome back to Senior World Radio. I'm Glenn Howard, visiting today with Sallie Felton. Sallie is a lady that I truly admire for the way she has managed to operate in spite of some real difficulties. Sallie was married for 41 years. The husband decided he no longer needed her. In first segment that he decided she was no longer an asset to his ministry. So she started working with the local church and led a couple of mission trips. Those couple have begun to expand until over the years. Sallie, you've been on how many mission trips altogether?
Probably around 60-some.
60-some mission trips around the world. We were talking just before the break about some of your trips, particularly to Mexico, to Alaska, even to Central America. Probably, I don't know, where would you say is one of the most difficult mission fields that you've ever worked in?
Well, I don't know. It's the most difficult for me, but I would say it is for them. Would be the Ukraine right now. We, let's see. I can't think. 6 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Nikolai Smirnov had requested that he had sent word to VIM that he had a new...
Now, VIM, that's Volunteers in Missions. That's the Missions Methodist, okay.
That he had a new church, and he wanted some old Methodists to come and help him. And I'm not sure why they immediately thought of me. But we formed a team and went to help him get started. At the time, he was meeting in a dosha, that he had a house out in the country with outside plumbing and no running water. And then he was able to buy property in town, and now has a thriving Methodist church in Krasnoyarsk.
I'm amazed at the way people in some countries are able to do so much with so little. I remember myself when I was in the Ukraine, I had gone over there with Doug Mobley. We had put together an evangelistic outreach. We had rented a hall, done some advertising. When we got ready to go, of course, we called a taxi, and one of those memories that sticks out in my mind, the most scary ride I think I've ever been on, was riding across Kiev, Ukraine in a taxi. We had actually two taxis hauling our group, and one of them was trying to, I think, get away from the other, and the other one was determined that he was not going to lose him. And so they drove like absolute insane people, to say the least. Of course, I've seen while driving in a lot of different countries, but that was one of the more frightening ones. But to listen to their stories, the nuclear explosion that took place over there and the poverty that the people were living in. And, of course, it's been so compounded by the battles or the war that's going on right now in the whole Ukraine. But to see a group come over from the States that's there to help, I don't know, was most of your work in actually helping build, or were you teaching, or what was most of the outreaches that you were doing?
Mostly teaching and encouragement. We thought that the pastor, Nikolai, was selfish because he already received $126 a month. He lived in the church, slept in a chair, had outside plumbing, and no running water, no gas.
And he was one of the most prosperous in the community.
So we've been able to help him along the way to better his circumstances. And we kept requesting, get a bed, get a bed. And he sent us a email not too long ago, and now he has a bed. He couldn't turn over in the chair because his elbows would get in the way. So we have provided a water line and a gas line and a porch. He teaches guitar free, and his students give concerts in the summer at the church that's on a main street there in Krasnoyarsk. And they invite their cousins and grandparents. And we've been able to help him build a stage so that they can perform.
You know, I sometimes hear people make the comment, why in the world do we send missionaries overseas? They can do it themselves. They don't need foreigners coming in. And yet I have seen such major changes take place as people have gone from one country to another like that. Changes to the people who go as well as changes to the people who receive the ministry. And as you continue to keep up, I'm sure, do you follow up on these people that you have visited and hear response from them after your visits?
Some we do, some we don't.
It makes such a change in their lives to just know that somebody's interested.
I think somewhere in the Bible, and you may remember, Jesus talked about someone who would come alongside to help, that would be with them. And I think that's maybe part of the role we play, simply someone that cares and will come alongside to help.
I think the Bible calls him a comforter.
I think he does.
And we certainly do that. I know from particularly having lived overseas and having teams come over to visit, it was nice to have them come over and help in doing work. We've had them come over and build buildings, which is nice, do that kind of work. But frankly, we could hire that kind of stuff done probably a whole lot cheaper than people coming from abroad certainly could do. But the very simple fact that people came over from the States and showed interest, that listened to their stories, that expressed concern, that extended some love and care, it literally changed the atmosphere for the church and for the community. And for me, it was a very gratifying experience.
And for me.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
How about Asia? Did you ever go to Asia?
I've been to Thailand, and I've been to Indonesia. And in Nepal, I had about all the rice I want to eat for the rest of my life. I'm not sure if they called it dim sauce or dumb sauce, but that was our meal 4 times a day. And sometimes we had vegetables that were cooked down beyond recognition, so I'm not sure what they were that we had with our rice.
That's one of the interesting things about food in Asia. I remember several times asking, what is this? And I've often been told, don't ask. And when you get hungry enough, you just eat and don't ask any questions. But
That's right.
What a blessing it is to people, for Americans whom are highly respected in many of these developing countries, to come into their home, sit down, and to eat a meal with them and to express concern and compassion for them. It makes a big difference.
They made special exception for me. They sit on the floor. But I got on the floor once, and it took 4 of them to get me up. So they brought me a chair from then on.
They sat on the floor and let you sit in the chairs. One of the things I've observed about people in many of these countries, though, is the openness, the care that they have for us, for our well-being. It's I think sometimes we Americans kind of look out for ourselves. We don't care about others that much. And to see them really caring about us when we come over, it was a very moving experience for me, especially I remember in Mexico, seeing one time we took a group and went into a community, and we caught them by surprise. The instructions had been sent that we were coming, and they were expecting us a day later. And So all of a sudden they were running around the neighborhood gathering up any spare meat they had to throw into a pot to make soup for the night. But, the concern and the impact I'm sure it has not only on you but on the people that you take with you changes their lives, doesn't it?
One time when we were in Guatemala, we went, miles out. It was, I think, 10 miles past the boondocks, That's how far in it was. And we were served a stew with meat. And the meat was so tough that most of us couldn't eat it. But we thanked them and were gracious. We found out later that the people in this community were saving their money to build the church. They only had meat once a month, and they had given us their meat, and they would have none for that month because they'd shared it with us.
Beyond imagination, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sallie, have you ever felt in danger on these trips?
I never have.
I think that is so interesting because many people are afraid to go overseas. I remember especially when we were living in Budapest, in church sometime we'd have people requesting prayer for a friend or relative who was going to the States, and they were wanting to pray for them for protection because they were going into, and they would name some of our big cities. For some reason, we feel so secure here and so insecure there. And yet I have found on all of these mission trips, it has been a wonderful experience all the way around. And now you're working currently at First Methodist Church here in Oklahoma City, are you not?
Attend.
That's where you're attending?
Yes.
You got any trips coming up in the near future?
I just got back from Nicaragua in August, where we had a doctor, a dentist, and 2 dental hygienists, and a Bible school team and a sewing team. And as you know, I'm a little older, so they put me in the corner, and they gave me a bucket of water and a string and told me to fish. Well, maybe not.
Oh, Sallie, I'll tell you, we got to go. Our time is up. I hate to quit this, but this has been so much fun. I'm Glenn Howard talking to Sallie Felton. If you want to go with her on one of the mission trips, contact her at the First Methodist Church down there at 4th and Robinson. Get involved in some of these. It will change your life. Hey, we got to go. We'll see you again this same time next week. Until then, be kind to everybody you know. Do something nice for somebody, especially yourself. We'll see you next time. Sallie, thanks so much for coming in.
I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around.